October is a great month for vegetable gardening in Florida. There are so many things that we Floridians can plant in October that will thrive all through the fall, winter, and early spring. For most of us in North and Central Florida, the window for starting warm season crops from seed has passed, but we can start planting all sorts of cool season crops from seed, and we can still transplant warm season seedlings that were already started from seed in the past month or two. Here's a list of some of the cool season crops that can be started in October: arugula, beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage and Chinese cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, collards, endive, kale, kohlrabi, lettuce, mustard, onions and shallots, radish, spinach, strawberries, Swiss chard, and turnips. Most of the crops on this list can either be transplanted or direct seeded, meaning that you can either transplant seedlings or plant the seeds directly into the garden. I usually start my seedlings by planting seeds in small pots or soil blocks and then transplant them into the garden 4 to 6 weeks later. However, there are a few crops that don't transplant very well, and it's recommended that they be direct seeded into the garden. Crops that are best to direct sow are carrots, onions, radishes, and turnips. Also, I just want to point out that most varieties of strawberries that we grow here in Florida are typically started from bare roots or plugs and not from seeds. So if you're growing a variety of strawberry that grows from seeds, then it's best to start the seeds in August and transplant in October. For most of us in North and Central Florida, it's a little late to be starting warm season crops from seed in October. But in South Florida and in some of the warmer coastal regions, gardeners can still plant warm season crops. If you live in South Florida or in a mild climate that is less prone to getting freezes in the winter, you can still start warm season crops such as beans, cucumbers, eggplant, peppers, tomatoes, and squashes. From this list, note that beans, cucumbers, and squashes are recommended to be direct seeded, while tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant can be transplanted. There are also a lot of herbs that can be grown in the fall. Some herbs that can be planted in October include basil, cilantro, chives, dill, fennel, lemon balm, sage, and thyme. Here are some of the seedlings I'll be transplanting in mid-October. So far, I've started lettuce, Swiss chard, bok choy, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, and collards. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be starting beets, carrots, onions, and radish. I'm in Central Florida in Zone 9B. Keep in mind that planting dates can vary depending on your zone and your microclimate, and they can even vary slightly from year to year. If you're still getting daily highs in the upper 80s and 90s, then the cool season crops will struggle if they're put out in the direct sun. It's best to wait until the daily high temperature cools down to at least the low 80s before transplanting or direct seeding cool season crops. Last year, October was surprisingly hot, and if this year is like last year, then it may be better to wait until mid or late October to put cool season crops out in the direct sun. I often put up 30 or 40% shade cloth temporarily when I transplant my seedlings, just to keep them cool until the weather fully cools down. Once the cool weather arrives, I remove the shade cloth so that the plants can get full sun. Also, although we get lots of rain all summer, we move into our dry season in October. Dry season typically lasts from October until the end of May. Since we won't be getting rain as often, remember that you'll need to keep up with watering the garden through the fall, winter, and early spring. I like using drip irrigation and also self-watering containers to make watering a little easier to keep up with.